Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining the Technical Fireside chat this morning. Wanted to take a quick minute just to introduce everybody that we have on the call. It's a full house this morning. So first and foremost, we have Sarah Hughes, Senior VP of Customer Experience. We also have Sharon Posadny, who's a Senior Manager with Customer Success. We have Raphael Torblock, who is the founder and managing director at Acrobits. And then we also have Danny Sylvain, who is the product line manager for UCAS here at Kandy. So we're all going to be kind of taking turns presenting various components to you as we discuss the third-party Softphones. So we've got quite a bit of information that we're going to share with you this morning. We have scheduled this for about an hour and a half. So we will go ahead and get started, and Danny's going to be helping us out with answering questions and things in the chat as you guys have them. So just to give you kind of an idea of the agenda this morning, so the introduction is what we're kind of going through right now. Sarah's going to talk to us a little bit about the end of life notice for the Smart Office clients. As you guys know, that's coming down the road. I'm going to then go in, we'll introduce you to the 4 SIP Softphones that we're going to be talking about. And those are going to be Voice Operator Panel, which is a receptionist-based tool. We're going to talk about Acrobits quite a bit. And then we will also look at Counterpath Bria client as well as Zoiper.
Great. Thank you, Simon. So many of you probably received an email from Kandy Customer Success at Kandy.io, where we outlined that we are discontinuing the desktop and mobile Smart Office, as well as the clients, as well as the collaboration client. And so those end of sale is September the 30th. Which has already passed. That means that all partners, resellers, customers should not sell or deploy it to any new customers after that date. And the only exception is if you have somebody deployed and you need to out and rebuild them for any purpose, then you can continue that. But the end of support is the end of this year. That is the 30th, not the 31st. Being a Friday, but that is where Kandy will no longer accept support cases, technical support cases on those, and you can assume that they are no longer going to work. The service, we are going to be dismantling that in January. So after that date, do not continue to utilize those clients. Now, why did Kandy make this decision? And I think, we've had a lot of questions from the field on this. These are all WebRTC-based clients. And what does that mean? Web real-time communications. We had originally resold the Counterpath client as GenCom, as a hard client. And then we decided with the WebRTC gateway that that we had agreed that we were going to have our own clients that are organically created, and then move forward from there using the WebRTC clients. Well, we had hoped at that time that it would solve a lot of the deployment issues, but when it really came down to it, that the containers that the WebRTC clients utilized, it did not allow us to control the drivers on the devices, whether that was the desktop or the mobile, either one of those. And it was also apparent that we could not keep up with the interop issues and stability things of having to test each and every Android, Samsung, Google Pixel, all of these different devices out there. There were just so many, and we just could not keep up with that. It was very costly, and we just couldn't stay up to date with it. We didn't wake up every morning and work on that. We didn't have a team of 50 developers or 100 developers doing that and testing all the different handsets, all the different operating systems. And these are WebRTC based, and we've entered into an agreement to sell, not the business, we keep the IPR, and you can see this on what we had filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission. We are publicly traded, that we have entered an agreement with Ribbon to sell them back a license for their on-prem use of that. And so we're beginning to dismantle the cloud-based WebRTC capabilities that we had. And we are also taking down in each of the data centers the WebRTC components, the hardware, the software in that. So we're moving away from that. So that is the reason why you're seeing us decommission these, because we had thought that that was going to, in Sarah Hughes' Texas terminology, solve world hunger for us around clients, that it really didn't. That the WebRTC capabilities, sure, Google supports a lot of that, but the other browsers didn't support as much of that as what we had hoped. And it really was not as stable as we had hoped it would be. And some of you have borne the brunt of that as well and seen that. So what we have done is we've added in one of the last releases, or a couple of releases ago, 52.3, we've added these certified SIP softphones. And what does certified mean versus supported? Certified means we've tested them. We've added documentation around them. We're going to share that with you as we go through here. But the first one is the voice operator panel, or VOP. And you can see there, that one is to replace the Kandy call center attendant console. Some of you used it as a receptionist app previously, and this is the replacement for that. And you can purchase that directly from VOP. We're going to go through how to do that, and Simon's going to give you a demo of it. I think you're going to really like it. And then there are 3 soft phone vendors that are SIP-based soft phones: Acrobits, Raphael Torblanca is on with us, and Counterpath, many of you know them, and Zoiper. So we're going to give you a demo of them. We're going to talk about the support around them. We're going to talk about, I'm going to show you the admin portions of those and give you some more visibility. So this webinar is a little bit longer than our normal hour webinars, so please make arrangements to stay for the full hour and a half here, and that way you can get a full glimpse of these. So I'm going to hand it over and let Simon go through the voice operator panel.
Good morning, thanks, Sarah. All right, so as Sarah said, we're going to take a quick look at voice operator panel. This is intended to be a replacement for the receptionist console that you guys possibly used with Kandy in the past. The nice thing about this panel is, well, there's a couple of different things. First and foremost, this is a software-based application, so it's no longer a web-based portal that you're going to log into. It does support a lot of different integrations in terms of Outlook, LDAP. You can integrate it with a CRM system. It can be used as either a standalone soft phone or tethered to an analog VoIP hard phone, just depending on how you want to configure it. And then it also, one of probably the coolest features of VoP is that it does allow for drag and drop technology. So in other words, you can drag somebody from your address book or your contact list inside voice operator panel and drop them into the outgoing calls area, or you can drag somebody from incoming calls over to your contact list and drop them on a contact to transfer, things of that nature. So you don't have to type in digits, you don't have to do anything like that. You can use the drag and drop features to transfer calls, make telephone calls, all of those kinds of things. To purchase voice operator panel, you do need to reach out to sales@voiceoperatorpanel.com. They do bulk discounts, volume discounts. So depending on how many licenses you need, they do have tiers there available to you. There are two different versions of the panel or the licenses that you can purchase. Standard is what we would recommend. It's probably going to be the most common option. You can see in the chart in the bottom right of the slide. So the standard option does allow for unlimited presence. It allows for unlimited presence, concurrent calls. You can have multiple directories, all of those kinds of things. The light version is intended for smaller companies that only need to monitor a handful of employees and things of that nature. So what you'll see there is that there are some limits to phone presence, concurrent calls, and number of directories. So you can save a little bit of money there. It's just a matter of figuring out what works best for your company. And then it is a one-time cost, so you can go to voiceoperatorpanel.com/pricing, and they will work with you on whatever it is that you need. From the Kandy perspective, there are some provisioning things that you need to be aware of. So we recommend that you use the UC desktop and above packages with Voice Operator Panel. That's going to give you all of the various features and things that you need. Now, in this slide, we've given you all the legacy SKUs that we've had in the past that you may still be using. So it's any of these packages or above that we would recommend, the most current being the UC desktop.
And honestly, if I can interject, the reason being is the presence capability is built into those SKUs, which is important. As we go through the demo, you'll see that. But in order to see the busy lamp field, the presence capability, you have to have at least that SKU.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. You can add on licenses as you need. So if you wanted to add in something like call recording or the audio conferencing, all of those things can still be added to this just as you have in the past. From a provisioning perspective, this is a software-based application that gets installed on the computer. We've got a lot of documentation on how to do this in the partner portal with some great tips and tricks that we'll put in there. But the long story short is you install the software on the computer, you go through, you configure it with all of your SIP username and password and server credentials and all of that. Once you get the software installed, you then have to license the software. So on the software itself, you can hold, it's actually Alt-L, and that will give you a pop-up with the computer's MAC address that you're logging into. Once you have that MAC address, you'll go out to the license manager, which is the next bullet down. And on the license manager, you'll plug in the MAC address, you'll assign it a license, and then you will provision that license down to this computer. Once that's taken care of, it should go through the SIP registration process just like you would expect, and the software will be installed. If you ever need to, you can do an Alt-V, which will verify the license on the software application. It'll bring up a box, and I'll show you this here in just a minute, but it'll bring up the version of the software, it'll bring up the license that you're currently using, all of those kinds of things. This chart right here is just a comparison between the old KCC attendant console and voice operator panel. I'm not going to read through every single one of these, but just to hit some of the highlights here. So supervised transfer never did work well with KCC. So with voice operator panel, it's actually a really great feature that works without any problems. Again, voice operator panel does have drag and drop transfers as well as placing phone calls, which was not previously available. Call forwarding, Outlook integration. So this can be integrated into your Outlook, and I'll show you what that looks like. It'll sync your contacts list and all of those kinds of things. Voicemail status indicators, so voice operator does have that. Directory import and export, so you do have the ability of working with a CSV file and pulling in a large number of contacts all at the same time. You also have the ability to blacklist callers in VoP. So you can set it, you can essentially right click on a caller and blacklist them so that that particular person can't call you anymore. There is CRM integration, and then this is actually a software application that gets installed on the computer instead of a browser-based tool. You want to go to the next slide?
Yeah, and the big deal on the client being a browser, you know, versus an application in VoP is that if you close the browser before, you wouldn't get any calls or it would hang up on your caller. So people inadvertently would, you know, close the browser, whereas an application is a lot more intuitive.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing. And now Simon.
All right, let me do this. Let me get rid of that. All right, so the first thing that, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
The first thing that I wanted to show you before we get into the actual software application is the license manager. So when you come out to voiceoperatorpanel.com/LM, you'll have your own unique username and password that you're going to log in. I'm just going to log into the Kandy version. This is the license manager. It's fairly straightforward, to be honest with you. So essentially what you have here is what appears to be a lot of stuff on the screen, but what you're actually looking at here is this field right here. It says name. This is where you're going to plug in the MAC address for the PC. So you can plug in MAC address, you'll hit create, and it's going to give you a license that's associated with that computer's MAC address. You'll then take the license from here and then paste that into the software application, and it does a sync on the back end to verify that license. You do have the ability here on the right-hand side to come in and name these licenses. So you can see we've got several people here with licenses associated with them. And this is a free-form text field. So, you know, if you wanted to put their names or if you wanted to put extension numbers or whatever works for you in terms of knowing who that license is associated with. But again, just to reiterate, it's place the MAC address, you'll hit create, it's going to populate a line item down here. You can then take that license and you'll plug it into the software application during the install process. If you ever needed to revoke a license, there is a revoke license section here. Essentially what it's going to have you do is reach out to Voice Operator Panel and they will assist you with getting the current license removed and credited back to your account so that you can go through and reassign that to somebody else. If I switch over, so this is Voice Operator Panel. So the very first thing that I wanted to show you guys in here is how to make a telephone call in the system. So the first thing I'm going to show you is just an incoming call. So from my cell phone, I'm just going to call Voice Operator Panel. You'll see it shows up here in the incoming call section. To answer, I can just double click. Once I've double clicked, I can talk to the caller. I can go through my normal call routines. You can see over here on the right-hand side, when I've answered that phone call, I am showing as busy now. If I wanted to place this caller on hold, I can just double click again. They go to a hold status. If I wanted to, I can double click once again. Now I'm talking back to that caller again.
And Simon, those mouse settings, there are multiple ways to do these, right? You can right click and do things. You can function key, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I didn't want to double click, right, I can right click, I can place the caller on hold. I could also answer the call via a right click. You also have transfer options and things here. So if I needed to type in a telephone number, right, I can right click, transfer, and then type in the number. All of those things work. If I also wanted to, I have the ability of just taking this call, and I don't know if you guys can really see it, but I'm clicking and dragging, and I can actually just drop it over on Sarah, for example, right? And that will transfer the call over to Sarah's phone. So now you can see Sarah is busy. Looks like she may be getting another phone call. So you can see drag and drop does work without any issues. The next thing that we wanted to show you guys is multiple telephone calls coming into the at one time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click myself again, click and answer, and then there is also I can again right click or I can double click, place myself on hold, and then I can answer Sarah's phone call and talk with Sarah. You can see multiple calls coming in all at the same time. It works without any issues. In testing, I had, I think, 17 telephone calls in the panel at one point in time. So really shouldn't run into too many issues with that. Likewise, if I wanted to, I can right click, I can hang up on these callers. If I wanted to place an outbound call, right, I can just simply drag and drop. So I'm going to grab my cell phone number, drag it over to the outbound call, and place an outbound call. In addition to making and receiving calls, there is a concept of directory. So you're seeing just a demo directory that I've created here for the purposes of this call. But you also can import your entire global address book. So I've imported the entire subscriber list so that we have access to anybody in the company. And then I've created a separate section that could be your more frequent callers, people that you call on a regular basis. You can have separate directories set up with that. And with the standard license, you can have unlimited number of directories. So you can have several different day shift, night shift, weekend shift. Whoever wants their own directory could certainly have that. Down at the bottom, there's a couple of cool features here. So you do have the status. You can go into a do not disturb status if you need to. Your input, so if you wanted to mute your telephone calls, you can go down here and do that. There's a keypad, so if you need to send DTMF on a phone call, like you're calling a support line, or you've got a press 1, press 2 kind of situation in IVR, this is the keypad that you can use for that. If you wanted to, you do have the ability to blacklist callers, so you can right click on the caller and blacklist them when they're calling in. And then over in your settings area, I'm not going to go through all of these different settings, but there is a CRM integration, so you can go through and do the setup of your CRM. It also does integrate with Office 365, and you can do an Outlook integration as well to sync contacts. But I did set that up, and what you can see over here is my Outlook address book. So you can see my personal contacts and things like that have synced over from Outlook. So I didn't actually input these; they were pulled from Outlook. Another thing we wanted to show you, so you do have access to the call logs here. There's a tab for call logs. Then from a troubleshooting perspective, so if I were to hit Alt-V, so Alt-V is going to allow me to verify my license. You can see the MAC address that's associated with this license. It gives me all of the version information for the software that I'm using, things like that. And then additionally, from a troubleshooting perspective, one of the really cool features in here is if I do Alt-D, it's going to pull up the debug tab. So this is a hidden tab that you can pull up. And what this is allowing me to do is go into a debug mode and see what's happening here. There are various levels. So if you're wanting to see all of the SIP messaging, you can go to a debug level 5. That's going to give you all of the different SIP signals that are coming into this panel. Now you can see there's a lot happening on my line right now, so the screen is flickering. You can see all of these are the SIP signals that are coming into my line itself. Sarah, was there anything else that we wanted to show with this?
The license manager. Can you show the license manager, please?
Yeah, so that was the first thing that we looked at.
Okay.
So this is
Okay.
the license
Yep.
manager. You can see the MAC address that I'm associated with.
Great. Thank you. All right. So let's flip back over here.
All right, I've stopped sharing.
Great. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So there's a couple of resources available for you. So I mentioned earlier, there is some documentation out on the partner portal. This has a full list of instructions on how to go through and install the software. There's some troubleshooting information out there. So it's a really good resource for you to go through and download. And then Voice Operator Panel also has quite a bit of documentation available on their website. So you can go to voiceoperatorpanel.com. They do have specific install instructions for Kandy. So again, that's voiceoperatorpanel.com/tutorials/Kandy. There's an FAQ section that goes through and answers some of the common questions that come up. And then if you go to voiceoperatorpanel.com/media, it's where all of their training videos are located. The nice thing about those training videos is they're about 3 to 5 minutes each, so it's not something that's going to take up a bunch of time from your perspective.
Sharon, you want to go through some of the questions then that came up? I think.
Sure, we had a couple. One was, is the license transferable? And we answered that. Simon showed that yes, if you just change the MAC address, you can transfer the license. And there was another question about, is the music playing, the music on hold music, where does that come from? And that comes from the KBS SIP line. So yes, the partner can control that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the last question is the licensing per instance? And
it's per computer.
It's per computer, so per MAC address.
Yes.
And that's a good question too, Simon. I know you ran into this with one deployment already. Do you want to elaborate on what you guys did there?
Yeah. So
as it's installed.
So I'm working with a laptop, right? So I'm sitting here in my office and I've got it set to a docking station. So what I found was when I initially installed it, it was using the LAN MAC address on my laptop rather than the wireless MAC address. So of course, then I go out into the field and I'm using wireless internet connection and it's using a different MAC address. So I ran into issues with it actually installing or functioning, right? It came up and said that it wasn't a licensed copy of the software. So in that instance, what I had to do is I actually revoked the license, worked with the support team, and used the MAC address for my wireless card so that I was able to use it both when it's docked and when it's not docked. So if you're working with a laptop, that may be one trick that you want to run into is use the MAC address for the wireless card, not the LAN card. You know, but other than that, I mean, it's a pretty simple process. Voice Operator Panel is extremely responsive. Usually, you know, in my experience, right, 2 to 3 hours, and I've got a response from them that's detailed and letting me know what I need to do. So it's been a very good experience working with them.
Yeah, and just to note, we also have updated the documentation around this. So if you downloaded it initially, the Kandy documentation, all of these, we've updated them quite a bit.
And then there's one
Great.
additional question that came in. It was, do we purchase this directly from VOP? And that answer is yes.
Yeah.
Great.
So the next slide, so what does Kandy support? So we support anything that's related to the SIP line or the SIP subscriber provisioning that connects to VOP. So if you're having any sort of issue like that, you need to just reach out to us and we can take care of it. If it's something related to the software itself, a configuration problem, or your shortcut keys or something like that aren't working, you would then reach out to VOP directly. And they do have support lines that you can email to get those responses. Like I said, I've had pretty good experience responding relatively quickly. We did talk about Alt-D, which is how you get into their debug mode. You get the ability of selecting what level of debug you want to look at, so 0 through 5. When you go up to a level 5, it is going to pull in all the SIP signaling, so you can see that as well. And then down at the bottom, there is an ability to copy that file and share it out to their support teams. I think we've covered a lot of these common troubleshooting as well. So it's just making sure you have the correct usernames and passwords in the system. Make sure that you have gone in and reset your SIP user password, right? So you've logged into the end user portal, you've reset that from the initial setup. Presence, so if you wanted to see presence, when you go to save the contact in the address book, there's a drop down that'll allow you to enable or disable presence for people. So you can use that as well. There's also instructions in that documentation on the Kandy partner portal that will talk about how to go through and install the software for multiple users. So it largely depends on whether or not the person's computer or the computer that you're installing the software on has admin rights. If it does not, then there's specific instructions that you'll need to go through to install it for a single user, but you're going to essentially install it into an all users subfolder because the voice operator panel software installs wherever it installs everything, and they'll need read-write access to whatever folder it is that you're installing the software on. So if you're installing it to program files, they would need the ability to rewrite information in the program files folder, which typically requires an admin level credential. So, but you can create an all users folder and install it there, and it's no problems. Again, there's documentation on how to do all of that.
Great. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to transition into the Acrobits soft phone. And we do have Raphael on with us to help us answer any questions that come up. But Acrobits is one of the leading soft phone vendors out there. They were one of the first ones to have something appear in iTunes and Google Play stores as a soft phone. They own all of the IPR, which is intellectual property, and they write their code in-house, so they don't. They have really strict, security. That's the cryptography stuff, and it's super easy peasy. And another East Texas terminology there. They have both desktop and mobile, and it's all set up. There's Windows, there's Mac, there's Apple, there's Android, and it's all set up in their admin. I'm going to demonstrate that. Now, again, Raphael with us, this is one that I know we were, getting out of the client business. Some of you have already talked to about this, but we are currently working in agreement with Raphael to resell this. So that means that all Kandy partners that, they can replace their Smart Office desktop and mobile clients with a Kandy generic Acrobits client. Okay, so that means there'd be no impact on your pricing, no impact on your provisioning, and it would be kind of a change out. And so my team at customer success at kandy.io, you can email us and we'll work through that with you. What does that mean? We're still working out all of the logistics on that, but that is our intent, to resell the Acrobits client and replace that piece of it. One thing that Acrobits does have that's pretty cool is Amazon Chime as their collaboration piece. And it's kind of a lightweight collaboration of video, screen sharing, all of that. So again, that's another good use of that. Many of you are moving to Teams, as we're doing more stuff in Teams as well. But you can work through us and we can sell that to you similar to how we sold the Smart Office desktop and mobile clients. But if you're wanting something customized, you want to utilize the Amazon Chime piece of that, talk to us. And of course, you can work direct with Raphael as well. And what we have done is we've set up a configuration, kind of a master configuration, and then so that you don't have to start from ground zero, then we can kind of copy and paste that, and then you can customize it to your needs. But if you want to work through us and work where less that you have to deal with, then absolutely you can work with my team on that. Now, Raphael has also mentioned that in November will be 15 years that they've been in business and selling this. And they have a promotion plan for that 15-year anniversary. As long as you say you're a Kandy reseller, if you do want to work through them and have something custom, there's his contact information there. So how would this work? Now, we're still working out the logistics, but the idea is that if you want to use us as a reseller, then you would work with each of your customers that are deploying, or maybe you've sold Smart Office Desktop Mobile in, and work to change this out. It's like changing a telephone, right, in your system, but instead of using Smart Office, that business then would use the Acrobits client instead, and desktop and mobile kind of thing. And then in, of course, January, the current will no longer work. And so those kind of things, we can work through transition and all that. But it's not a migration, because you can't log into one day and all of a sudden now it's going to be the other one. It will be and install it on their computer, on their mobile, and use it instead of the other one. So they will have to uninstall the other one. What does the provisioning look like? You go into, and we've updated the documentation and all as well around this, but again, similar to what Simon showed on VOP, is that you have to have at least this level of SKU in order to get presence. We also do instant messaging kind of stuff as well there. And so originally we had SKUs, Org 0123, Org 03 was multimedia office. It's the baseline for every other SKU that has presence and instant messaging. And then some of you may have deployed the NCDC SKUs, but NCDC 003 desktop what is the baseline and higher SKU for that. And then in EMEA, we added the TLH SKUs. And so TLH 004 is the baseline SKU for that. And then many of you know about NUV 004, that's the Unified Communications. That's probably the most widely deployed one. And then a couple of years ago, we renamed that as the package for KBS PK 004 UC Desktop. And so those are, you go in and provision a user just like you do today. but you don't have to go in and add MAC addresses, in-device parameters, do anything like that. You can add call recording. You can add Meet Me audio if you want to do that, like a reservationless conference bridge. You can add voicemail transcription. You can use our PSTN if you want. But as you're deploying to your customers, if you're using our version of that, you'll have a provisioning link that they'll click on, that you can put in a welcome email. You can text it to them if you want to, if you've got a texting service for that. We're not providing the texting service, but you can also, if you're getting from Acrobits directly, they have a QR code. They also have the ability to do a wizard, where they can enter their telephone number and a PIN and kind of look that up. So there's lots of different ways that they can be provisioned, and working through that at the end user level. And what's great about this is it will kind of automatically update as well. So the desktop and mobile apps, very similar. You see the branding that is here. This is, we're working through what the generic brand would look like, but here is the look and feel of the desktop on the left, the look and feel of the iPhone mobile version of that. And so we did do a comparison here of Smart Office to Acrobits client. And yes, there's a desktop, yes, there's a mobile. The messages are synced across those. The mobile does allow for video calling. Instant messaging and presence is there. It does have the ability for you to do some logging and send some logs. Voicemail notification is in there and retrieval. The Smart Office desktop client only did blind transfer. And so the Acrobits client does both supervised and blind transfer. It does support call recording. It's a locally based or a call recording. And then call waiting, you can set it to auto answer, click to dial, call logs, history. It does have Outlook integration. There's an optional group chat if you want to add that in. It does do file transfer and has the ability to do MSI files if you are in a company that has the organization itself, the IT department, push things out, so you can do it that way. So let me show you a demo here. I do have my mobile using a Power Mirror if you've ever used that. And then I do have the desktop soft phone here. But before I do, let me just show you the admin right quick. And so on the admin, let me move this out of the way. So when you log into when you get this set up, it's providers.cloudsoftphone.com. You get an email with your admin. If you buy directly from Acrobits, if you don't, then we handle that for you. But there's different packages and all that you can turn on and off in here. You can manage the provisioning options, the design themes, setting up test accounts and loading it in. Everything's in this portal, and they've made it super, super easy for you. You can go in, you see these QR codes that are in there, you see the software to download and put into the app stores and so on. It does support test flight and all of that as well. And you can download and sideload these as needed. But what's really great about this is, and I'll just do a quick of this, you can go in and look at the desktop themes, and these can be edited. And this is how easy it is. Some of you who've gone through the branding process with us on Smart Office, you know what a beatdown that was to provide all the files and all of that. Well, this is really, really easy. You can change what device that you want to brand in that, but you basically click on things and you can see this is what you're seeing, but you can come over here and change the colors and upload graphics and so on for that. And you can change the device. That was the desktop, and here's the Apple version of that. And again, you can look at colors, images, all of that. So you can choose every piece of this. It's fully customizable. It's super, super easy to do. And of course, you can have multiple versions here. You can have one that you're playing with and testing, and you can have one that's in production, and then you can push it. So it's super, super easy to do. The provisioning options in here, they're set to view because it's been approved, but you can take it out of that. But you can see, you know, the domain using iOS Call Kit. And a lot of this we've updated the documentation around this as well, and making that easier with a lot better screen captures and so on. And lots of things that you can customize, like having a, you know, the new account screen. You can put your own privacy policy in there. You can set your own tabs, what you want to show, what you don't want to show. Anyway, it's really easy to do. Then when you're testing this, the test calls are only a minute long. Okay, so it will drop you out of that. But let me just kind of show here. I've got a few things I set up. You can do this and push these out globally, or users can go set these up as quick dial options. So there's quick dial. I've also set up my Office 365 in here, and it's pulled in all of my Outlook contacts. I can go back into the my quick dials here, and I've got call grabber. So if I have a call set up and I'm, let's see, I'm just going to call you Simon. I'm going off script here. And you can see his presence. All right, and I can hit call grabber and it'll move it here. Let me put it on mute so that I don't get any feedback. So you can see that, and this is only going to stay for a minute here, but I have the ability to add someone to the call. I can supervise transfer. I can blind transfer. I can undock this. I can pause it, you know, put it on hold, resume it, all of that. You can also say whether or not you want to record this call or not record this call. And I can look at stats on this call as well. So you can see what codec, what network I'm using, my signal strength, and so on. So it's pretty handy. I'm going to end this call. And you can also see my message waiting indication. I can see my missed calls in here and missed chats as well. Now you notice on my mobile, it's similar. I do have my call history. I have messages. I have my quick dial settings here. I can add one, call it call grabber. Okay, and my dial pad, my contacts, you see my Office 365 up there. And then we've also integrated the user portal here, which is a, you can set up web-based links. So you see on this, the user portal is here as well on the desktop to go into the Kandy end user web portal. It also has a do not disturb. Again, the contacts are there, my recents are here. And I've got my chat messages. You can send pictures back and forth. You can click to call. You can look at the call logs here. I can clear these out. Emoticons are also supported, so that makes it nice. And then under the configuration, you can see on the left here, this is what build I'm on. I can go in and edit my account. And so notice I don't have the @domain on this. And that is, go back here. So there's my do not disturb on that. And then my, not that, contacts, keypad. There's my settings on it. So account setup is here. And of course, the link to the user portal. So it's the same, the end user web portal. And you can set up push notifications, preferences, and you can have it pull. You can reset the application and pull down new config and re-provision as well. Here on the desktop, you can set up your notifications, your sound settings, lots of different options there. You can utilize the call recording. And again, this is something that's set up in the configuration in that web-based admin. Do I want to do this? Do I not? And then the controls are set up as a default calling app, set it on top. And the logs are the logs for, you saw the logs in BOP where you do a control or Alt-D for debug. That is here. You can save those, you can retheme and copy that out. And then further on, you can reset the application if needed. So that is the, yes.
There's a question about the call recording. Is that stored locally on the computer or is it stored in the cloud?
Raphael, can you answer that? Is he still with us? He was going to have to drop.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
now we can.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So
yes,
it's stored locally in the device by default, but there is an API where you can set a URL and send those whatever you want to send them. Right? That's possible too. Obviously, you need to take care of privacy and many other things, right? Because the moment they leave the device, you have to be very careful. This is extremely private stuff, so I would recommend anyone that's wanted to use that service to really be really careful with, you know, GDPR and other things that might be a problem, right? Just saying. But yeah, it's possible, absolutely.
Great, thank you. One
other question, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Can the mobile app access the native texting?
I'm sorry, repeat that. Can the mobile app access what?
The cell phone texting.
No, you can't. No, that's completely prohibited by the operating systems, by the way, right? They don't give you access there. It was possible years ago. Now it's not possible anymore. You know, the operating systems, you know, Apple, Android, and everyone else they're taking now, you know, privacy very seriously, and that's really not possible anymore. Not because we don't want to. It's just because there is no API and access for us there at all.
Okay, thank you. One thing on the desktop, this green icon here is, you know, that I'm logged in, it's working. That's my presence. And so I noticed as we were setting things up, you know, if the registration, there was an issue, whatever, then this would appear red on that. So just a little troubleshooting kind of things. Any other questions while we keep going here?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, we have updated our documentation. You see now that we've added a feature compliancy with Kandy. We've added some more screen captures and clarifications on things. And as we come across those, we may up-issue those again. So keep a lookout for that. So their website is acrobits.net. Their documentation suite is doc.acrobits.net. They do have a quick start guide and a really good video tutorial on the provisioning of that. As far as support, Kandy is working through the reseller agreement, but the SIP line and the SIP subscriber provisioning that connects to the Acrobits client, all those capabilities, like the music on hold doesn't work. That was a question, where does it come from? But that would be something that is a Kandy issue if the music on hold doesn't work, obviously the provisioning and all of that. But if you have, you can open a case with Kandy if the same user that's registered, you have the same problem on a SIP card phone in that. And if we are reselling the client, we're working through what that support process is. So initially contact customer success at candy.io, my team, and we will work through that with you, including, should I have a branded client to go direct or should I not? Or again, we're still working through, we haven't executed a resale agreement yet, but we're working with Raphael and his team on that. So again, if you purchase your clients directly from Acrobits, you would work with Raphael and his team on any client configuration and setup. And as I showed you, you are able to go into settings and logs and save off any log files and share those if there's a support related question. Most common troubleshooting issues. Did you have something, Raphael?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one important thing before I leave, because I really have to leave in a couple of minutes, is that this is really like everyone else that is working with us or has been working with us. Everyone can have his own proof of concept. It's really a try and buy, right? Whatever you're going to release to the market is something that you can test before in full, right? It's very important to note, right? And as you mention and show it to everyone here, it's very easy to configure, really easy, really to change any configuration. You don't just do that in the portal and it shows in the portal, it's automatically into your device, right? So whatever you do there, it's really, again, a try and buy, and whatever it goes to you through us is the same process, right? Everyone really can try in full the client, which is very important, right? It's very uncommon in this market, right?
It is very uncommon. Yeah. In fact, until you purchase the others, you don't get access to the admin. You don't get access to all of that. So, and it's fully configurable too. That portal that they've set up is so intuitive. Of course, you can watch the video and see all of it, but yeah, it's really straightforward. And so our screen captures also add the baseline capabilities. If you want to add additional things, then that's absolutely there. What we found is the most common issue is the password issue. And so if the client won't register, you'll see on the client that it is a red icon at the bottom. It's not green. And so just make sure that the user is provisioned in Kandy. Make sure that the SIP password, that's the one when you're going into subscribers, the top left area where the user ID and SIP password is, that's the password that you need. But don't forget that you can test the password. You can go into the end user web portal, which is eup.candy.io. It'll resolve. And if you can log in with that password and access the end user web portal, that's the password that you need to input into the client. And don't forget that, and Raphael, if you need to go, you're fine to go.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for inviting me. Thanks for having me here, and looking forward to work with everyone that wanted to test this client. Have a great end of the day. I'm gonna have a great afternoon, and I need to fly. So thank you very much for having me. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks, Raphael, for joining. But don't forget when you provision a new user that a lot of times your domains are set up to, upon initial login, to change the password. That's another gotcha. So if you're setting up a test account or a test license, make sure you go in and change that user's password and provide that as part of your test setup. Download and follow the instructions from the Kandy Partner Portal. Where we've documented that. We also find that, hey, you missed a step, whatever it is. So those are all really handy troubleshooting items for that. All right, now we're going to go to the Counterpath Bria and talk about it. And the Bria soft phone is one that it's, again, GenCom was one of our original clients that we did. It was built. It was Bria. A lot of test groups use Bria initially. And so it's very flexible. Sorry, this is loading here and it's not going to go away. They do have desktop and mobile. A couple of things. This would be purchased directly with Counterpath. And we do have an account manager over there and his sales engineer. That is Patrick Hennessy. They're now called Alianza, and so they were bought by that, but it's still the Counterpath team. And Robert Hamilton is the sales engineer. Now, keep in mind, there are 2 different versions that we recommend. And one is the Bria Teams. That's for a smaller set, a business, like one business itself may be buying this, or you buying it for one business. You're not wanting to do anything really big. You just have a couple of accounts that need it, and you'll manage those yourself through the admin based tool, and each one of those would have a separate admin. If you are going to resell this and you want your own client, again, this is something that can be branded. If you're going to be selling to multiple businesses, it does support the enterprise version, gives you more capability, and it supports 4 devices, Kandy presence, remote debugging, and they use a separate admin for that. It is multi-tenant. So we ask that you work with Patrick and Robert to work on the enterprise pricing there. But the Bria Teams is something that you can go on their website and buy directly from the website. So you don't have to go, you don't have any commitments, you don't have any contract, you just go in and turn it on, okay? So I'm gonna go through and show you the admin for both and how easy this is. So under the Kandy provisioning, no different than what I said on Acrobits. You go in and provision the subscriber. You can add on different things if you want, but because this supports the Kandy presence and instant messaging, XMPP kind of stuff, then you can definitely, you want to use one of these SKUs to do that, okay? And with the Enterprise Edition, it's in the Strato admin that they call it. You do have a certain things that you have to set up there. You can bulk provision the user. So you can set up a CSV. You can use the APIs, and you can have your provisioning service go in and do that. You can also do it by command line. And you can set up Active Directory through LDAP and have it auto provision that way, a large enterprise. The users themselves can log in with their credentials, or and as they do that, it connects to the Strato admin server. And then there's certain things that you can even lock down so that they can't make changes and break something, because there's a lot of configuration options. And then within minutes, they're up and running. So this is what the mobile and the desktop looks like. This is the Bria Enterprise. You can tell the difference because it says Bria Enterprise. The other one is Bria Teams, and it just has your name. So here is the desktop and the mobile, and you can see it has message waiting indication, chat indication, missed calls, that kind of stuff too. And as far as going in and you know what it does have Google integration. So if you have a customer that really wants to do Google apps and integrate into that, this one will do that. All the others will do Outlook integration. Again, it does both supervise and blind transfer. It does group chat. You know, it does auto answer, that kind of stuff, and it does something called call blocking even. So if you have somebody that's, you know, constantly hounding you, you can block those calls. So let me show you here. Let me get out of that. And this is the Bria Enterprise client. And get over here. All right, but let me show you the admin on it. This is the Strato admin. All right, so this is what the admin for the enterprise looks like. You have your users and each domain. So if you have multiple domains in there, you can do that. So here are my users that we have under the Kandy domain, and we've got a profile set up that has all of the baseline elements that we want to do. For example, we want that in this, that it is Kandy.io is the domain, so they don't need to enter anything there. That voicemail, there's the proxy, the outbound proxy for us, and that how do you reach voicemail? That is through the word voicemail. It's in here down below. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Lots of things in here. 3,600 seconds for registration timeout. And where's the other one? There's the end user web portal, 3,600 on the presence refresh. I did set up a call grabber as a default item in here. Somewhere the voicemail is. But anyway, you can see there's lots of stuff in here that you can set up. And then each user, you can set up for the users. There's also the notifications, the emails that you can customize that to notify them that, hey, you have a link, download it. Here's where you go get the software, blah, blah, blah. And on each user, then you can say that you select them and you can hit the notification. All right, so I could send this to Sharon and hit notify and refresh the devices from here. I can also edit Sharon's configuration from here. So you can see her user ID, her email address. Maybe I got that wrong. If I need to edit her, I can. And then going down, this is her login. I did have to put her SIP credentials in here because when they log into the client login is the Counterpath login. So the SIP credentials have to be added by the administrator. That is different. Okay. So, second. All right. So let's go back over to the clients here and to the mobile. All right, let's do a quick demo of that. Okay, so I do have within this as a user, if I click on Softphone account settings, I cannot edit anything. I can look at it, but you'll notice that all of this is grayed out as it comes up. That is all done through admin. So it's super, super important that the user ID and password that is the password from the end user web portal login is listed here. Again, you can see the things, but you cannot go in and change them. Those all have to be done through admin. All right. So let me get rid of that. You'll see that my dial pad is here. You'll see I have missed calls, my message waiting indication, my presence. I'm able to show that outward to other people. I do have my contacts, and I have done a there's groups, all kinds of stuff. You can do favorites in here. You can do your call logs as well. All right. So Sharon, if you want to send me a chat message right quick, you can see that come in. I do have a pop-up in the tool tray. And when I get this message, you can see it here. And so there's chat back and forth. I can emoticons and so on. I can do a video call. I can add, create a chat room and do a group chat. That has to be kind of added into your package there. And I can go in and export or delete the conversation. I can edit the profile that I have for Sharon here. And then you see different people here too. That's her. All my chat messages. This is kind of just a chatty window here. And as I make calls out, actually, Sharon, can you call me? That way I'm not calling my mobile. You can see it rings on both of them there. So it's here and it's here as well. It's a pop-up in my tool tray, Bria Enterprise. I can answer it here. You can see, I'm going to put it on.
Sarah, I think when you muted, we lost your audio.
It automatically put me on mute when I did that. It also mutes Teams, I've noticed, or it puts Teams on hold. So you can put it on mute. You can hold resume. You can transfer. When you transfer, then it'll ask you, what you want to transfer to, supervised or blind, and your video calling. So that's all there. If you want to get in and do a pound sign, star 25, whatever it is, you can do that too. So this will call my voicemail. So it does do multiple call handling, and you can view your contacts, your messages. Here's where I can manage my contacts. I can import them in here, add a new contact. You can add groups, actions. These are what was set up in the admin, where I can set, I think there's up to 5 in this, where I can say call grabber. So if I have a call going on and I want to move it back and forth between my device, I can. And I'm just going to call Sharon here. And then I'm going to do call grabber. Oh, I ended it. Dang it. Do it again. All right, and now I'll do the call grabber. And it dialed it, and it moved the call over here. I can do call grabber again on my desk phone and move it back. So it does support those types of features. If you want to do intercom calling, you have other speed dials that you want to do, or pickup groups and park and all of those types of things, those can be set up as actions, just like the call grabber are in there. All right, and you can set up favorites, and you've got your call history in this. You can look at your calls. Your recordings are listed here. They are stored locally as well. Are there any questions here on Acrobits? I'm sorry, on Counterpath. The user guide is here. You can, under the troubleshooting, this is where you go get your logs. And so under support, you can send logs and packet captures and so on for that. On the mobile.
I'm sorry, the one thing that we probably just want to clarify that is you can use any of these SIP endpoints that we're showing you today, but we're going to partner with Acrobits. So any of them are available, but we're going to suggest Acrobits will resell them. So it makes it more seamless to you guys.
Right. So on the mobile, you can see I've got my contacts, and I've got up at the top here your chat, your favorites. You can add favorites, my call logs at the bottom, messaging in here too as well. So it's very consistent. The other one, so this is the enterprise version, but the Bria Teams is a lot simpler. So you just go in and say, the basics, we've got it all set up in documentation, and then you just put in the credentials for each of the users that are going to use it. So if you're only going to deploy this to 1 or 2 businesses, the Bria Teams may be the best option, and then you manage it for them. But if you're going to deploy to lots of different businesses, then the Counterpath Bria Enterprise is probably the better option for you. Okay, let me then go on to for the sake of time here, let's get into the support and documentation here. We've updated the documentation around this. It doesn't include the Stretto admin documentation. It has the Bria Teams one, but I will work with them to update that. So be on the lookout for that. Their quick start guides and their documentation are all here. They do have mobile user guides, common errors, generic enterprise guides. And as I mentioned, the user guide itself is within the application. If you're going use the Enterprise Edition, they expect that you're going to update the documentation yourself. And so they give you a sample and then you can edit it and then PDF that. It's pretty simple for that. The what does Kandy support versus what Counterpath does? Basically the same idea is that if the SIP line and the SIP provisioning for the user, that is Kandy. Music on hold, other things that you add to that, and open a case if the same problem occurs on a hard phone, like a Polycom, a Yealink, or whatever phone. But if it's an issue with the client, including the admin in Stretto or the admin in Teams, those you can follow our documentation and the Counterpath documentation, and then finally open a support case with Counterpath. Because even though it is certified, we don't control their admin, and so you would be, working through that with them. You can gather log files and provide those to Counterpath as well. If you do believe it's a Kandy related issue, you can, share the traces and stuff like that through there. The common things I've found are similar to the other is make sure that that user ID is built in the admin. As long as the password and the user ID are correct, you can log in with the end user web portal for that user, then that's good. That's where we find most of these issues. Make sure you follow the documentation as to what has to be set in there. And if you're using Bria Teams, there is a different desktop and mobile than Enterprise. They're like two separate applications entirely. So if you're using the desktop of Teams and the mobile of Enterprise, that's not going to work. So you need to be able to use the same one. I've also noticed if you make changes to admin, then you need to have them log out and back in order to see those take effect. So those are the main things. I will say one final little gotcha that I've seen with this is when you're logging into Bria, okay, you don't use your SIP credentials, you use your Counterpath credentials. And if those are not one and the same, which more than likely they won't be, then that's what they log in as. But you on the admin side have populated their SIP credentials. So again, as you're deploying this and you set up what their user ID and password is, you'll want to make those somewhat similar if they're transitioning from one to the other. Okay, so that's a common gotcha that I've seen. All right, let's talk about Zoiper. Zoiper, yes.
Before we go, can we answer a couple questions? One of them is, are any of the mobile clients supported by Kandy? So can you explain the difference between certified and supported and how we will support the clients?
Right. So it's just like with the phones, okay, the Polycom, Yealink, Audio Code, Cisco. So we do support the SIP line on that. And if you have an issue with it, then that part of it is us. But if it's the actual phone itself, which it is a software-based phone with the configuration, that would go to Counterpath or Zoiper or so on. We're still working through the Acrobits support model, and so we'll be communicating that. If you're interested in, looking at that, we're happy to work through that with you. But we're still working through the support model of that, and so my team will be the first defense on the Acrobits one for now. But what is are any of the mobile clients supported by Kandy? They are certified by Kandy. We've tested them. They do work as long as you set them up based upon our documentation on how to do that. I guess there's a couple of other questions here.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
That's maybe the last one.
They're both supported, the desktop and the mobile. So we We aren't saying that one versus the other. So if we say Counterpath is supported, it's the desktop and mobile. If it is Zoiper, it's the desktop and mobile. If it's Acrobits, the desktop and mobile. VOP only has desktop. It doesn't have a mobile. Okay. So again, we are not selling Zoiper. We are not selling Counterpath. We are not selling VOP. You have to go through them to get it. Zoiper itself is a pretty neat service, but there's a couple of gotchas here and there too we want to talk about. Zoiper works on Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, and Apple. And they have a pretty slick client. One thing that we have noticed is they have a free version and a pro version, so you'll want to look at that. Zoiper does have a group, sales@zoiper.com. They've been very responsive, and so that's who you would purchase it through if you're interested in doing that. They do have two different reseller programs. One is a standard reseller, and the other is their white label program. The standard reseller program only has desktop. So if you want to do the mobile, you would have to tell your customers to go on the App Store and buy it themselves. So you wouldn't control it. But if you want to go the white label program, you get both desktop and mobile. They do have Zoiper 5, a standard soft phone, but it does not include call recording, auto answer, call forwarding, event-based rules, click to dial, or contact integration like Outlook and so on. So we recommend the Pro edition if you want a full featured. Their pricing is in euros, so you can work with them on that, but they do have a one-time setup fee for each platform, okay? And that is each operating system. So that is a separate 1,500 euros for Windows, a separate 1,500 euros for Mac, a separate, for Android, for iOS. And then they also have a unlimited number of licenses per OS as well per month. It is a monthly recurring, but that is tiered. And so they do have some documentation around that. If you're interested in doing that, then you can work with them on that. For the Pro version of that, they do charge basically the one-time setup fee, which gives you a branded client. Okay, so they're doing the branding, you don't have control of it. And then they have a monthly recurring minimum. It's a fixed fee of 2,500 euros per month for an unlimited license of that. So the provisioning is just like the provisioning in the other clients or on the other clients within Kandy. That hasn't changed. For instant messaging, for presence kind of stuff, you get that through those package licenses there as a minimum. And then within the Zoiper client itself, under SIP accounts, you want to put your domain in. The username is without the @ domain. So mine is shus@kandy.io, so I would just enter shus. And then the password, the outbound proxy, and then there's some other things that you can set in there. You don't have to put a voicemail telephone number in these. All of these, if you just type in voicemail, because it's a SIP dialing with that, it would dial voicemail, whatever number is defined for that. Here's what the client looks like on desktop and mobile. The capabilities, there are some features that are only available in the Pro version, okay, which is the more expensive version. And you can download the software on the website and so on. It does not do that I saw file transfer, group chat, or any of that. But let me just kind of show you let me get to the Zoiper app on my phone and Zoiper app on my desktop. All right. So it's pretty straightforward. You've got message waiting indication, it's registering, and it'll give me a checkbox when I do register here. You can see the setup. Let's probably doesn't like the fact that I've got all these other things registered. You can get to the setup. You can change your volume controls and dial your messages. There you go. There's my checkbox. Here's my dial pad. If I want to look at who's online, my favorites are set up in here, and I can add new. You see presents on this as well. And I can search and find people. If you click this at the top, that cog, you can get into your accounts, and each user can go in and change. Notice the domain here, username, it doesn't have the @ the password, but you can also set up your proxy in here, but there are advanced settings. So this is where I turn on the subscribe to presence and the BLF. And I can also, the voicemail, transfer to voicemail is in here, RFC 2833, and then what transport I'm using and what codecs I'm using. So those are pretty straightforward. And then let me get out of that and go to the same thing is here with the little call settings. Would list there and go back. And my contacts, I've set up Windows contacts, Outlook contacts. These are what user, the Windows contacts here, Outlook. You can set that up. I did not see in like how do you want to map the fields, and the XML, you can set that up as well. Then you can set your audio, your video, your appearances here, what happens, what sounds, what themes. I think you can choose different themes, how you want it to behave, your call features here. You can forward all your calls immediately. This would be a phone side forward like the others. The headset integration, click to dial in other apps, any provisioning types of things. You can set here. There's some advanced settings. And then under help about, under the diagnostic, this is where you enable debug and have it automatically sent to them. So do these clients do SIP, TLS, and SRTP? Some of them do, correct. Counterpath Bria does. Acrobits also does. I'm not sure of Zoiper. All right, and then on the mobile client here, you can, one of the things that this is set, you can go in, I'm gonna click the little QR code here at the top, and that will open up where you could scan a barcode on that. And let me just get out of that, I don't wanna do that. My contacts are here, my call logs are here, my chats would be here, and any settings. And I ended up doing just I bought it online, just the one-time fee for Zoiper, and then you can add in premium features here. So, and this is where you go and just buy it on the web, and so it wouldn't come to you, it would be directly to them. But you can set up different things. If you turn on push notifications, it's a charge with that. If you get the OEM version of it, then you absolutely can go in and have a mobile version and a desktop version the same. So you can see the settings here, SUs, Kandy IO. And so what it does is it puts the account name and the domain together. So that's why you don't put the account name or the username and the domain. They are separate here for that. Okay, so let's, I know we have just a couple of minutes here, so let's go back and look at the next pieces. So the documentation again for Zoiper has been updated. We gave you a lot more screen captures on that. I did not have any admin of that. It's all, you provide the links to stuff, and then they go in and they have certain things they put in. So there's not a lot of lockdown and control as much. There is a quick start guide and a tutorial on provisioning and their website. And again, like the others, you would contact Zoiper for the client configuration. If the same problem exists in a SIP phone, a hard phone, then it definitely is a Kandy problem. That's one way to tell. I showed you how to gather the logs and report a problem. The main thing that people have is either they don't follow the instructions that we've outlined of what has to be set. And again, perfect example is sometimes under the username, they put suse@kandy.io because that's a SIP user ID, when in essence, all you need is the username here and then the domain separated. The other common problem is that they're not putting in the right password for that subscriber. So test it through the end user web portal. And then finally, one last thing that we have is in November, we are going to have a fireside chat where our very own Chief Revenue Officer, Chris Kahneman, is going to give a Kandy business update. So we'd like for you guys to go to our website, kandy.io/events, and click on the webinar. Here's a link inside this that you can go in and register for in November, and we'll be giving an update on the business, and you can hear from our Chief Revenue Officer. So with that, are there any additional questions, Sharon, Danny?
The only one that has come up that we haven't answered yet, the rest of them we've answered, is what is the replacement for collaboration? And we know that Acrobits does offer a collaboration. Other than that,
but we aren't going to be selling that portion of it. So if they want that, they'll need to get it directly from Acrobits. In the bulletin that we shared, you know, there's we're not going to be selling a collaboration service anymore. So those are all going to be at your choice. There's lots of them out on the market. There's Teams, there's Zoom, there's WebEx, there's you know, Google Meet, Hangouts, whatever. There's lots of them out there, and we just, the take rate on that, we just did not see, you know, after the pandemic, it was a WebRTC application as well for us, but we just have not seen the take rate on that. And some of our functionality was not as much as what some of the others that you can go get. So there, the bulletin does outline some replacements, but we aren't selling those.
Okay, when will Teams be integrated?
We'll be providing an update on that in November as well.
And the last question is, where are these bulletins located that you've mentioned a couple of times?
Sure.
That's a great question.
That is a really good question. So on our website, you can go to partners and the Kandy partner portal. If you haven't registered for the partner portal, you can go in and there's instructions here, and you fill this out, and then you'll get a login emailed to you, and here's where that is. So the documentation is here, and under support, we haven't published those bulletins. We'll publish them here under the notifications, under KBS support notifications. And then, of course, the documentation is in here under partner documentation. So there's the bot, the Counterpath, the Zoiper, the Acrobits. And my, make that a little bit there. So you can see here are all of our partner documentation.
I think the question is also the bulletin, Sarah. So you know how we sent out the email bulletin, but we also, didn't we publish it on the partner portal somewhere saying that?
Yeah, that's what I said. We need to post it. It's under support,
okay.
And it will be under KBS support notifications. We have not posted it. We need to post that. Oh, it actually is. It is here, right here. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep, so we did do it. Okay, great. All right. Any other questions?
Looks like we've covered them all.
All right, thank you. All right, and don't forget to, the registration for the next one is Kandy.io/events. and you come down here and the Kandy business update. You can register for that. And again, it'll be our Chief Revenue Officer, Chris Kahneman, myself will be going through a business update. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.